Hi, it's David Carter again from Carter Injury Law. You've moved on to the next case phase. Now that we've cleared our liability and coverage investigation, you're moving on to what is called the medical treatment phase of your case. If it's a car accident or a premises liability, obviously this doesn't apply to some other cases. But now that we know whether or not there's insurance coverage, what do you do next? The main focus for you right now should be on medical treatment, plain and simple. The doctors may have already sent you out for MRIs, and if not, we ask that you contact us and let us know so that we can help you get those scheduled. It's a very important and crucial part of your case. Diagnostic imaging is what it's called, and it's very important. So what does diagnostic imaging do? That helps us prove what your injuries actually are objectively. So subjectively, what that means is what you're telling the doctors is hurting, pain levels and things like that. Objectively is what the doctors can actually see on x-rays, MRIs, CT scans, and other diagnostic imaging films like that. So what comes next after the diagnostic imaging? After your MRIs, if you're still in pain, you'll probably be referred to some sort of specialist. If it's neck or back pain, you'll likely see a spine specialist. If you're having extremity pain, for example, in your shoulder or your leg or your knee or your ankle or your wrist, that's a different doctor. You'll likely need to see a doctor that specializes in treating those areas, orthopedic extremity specialty. So whether or not you decide to move forward with those treatment with those doctors is totally up to you, but it's very important that you at least go to them, hear them out, and get an opinion, because that will inform us of the extent of the injuries and will inform you of what you may need in the future. They can assess whether or not the injuries are permanent and chart out the path for you to move forward to help alleviate your pain. So again, I want to stress this again, whether or not you decide to move forward with their recommendations, it's always best to go into a settlement knowing the full extent of your injuries. You don't want to find out months or years later that, oh my gosh, I need to have surgery and I should have seen this specialist. You only get one bite at the apple, as we say. And once your case is settled, you can never go back and ask this insurance company or this defendant for more money. You settle it one time. So even if you find out that the injuries are worse than they thought you were, you can't go back and get more money. So now is the time to find out the full extent through imaging and specialist visits and medical treatment. So knock this part of the case out, and we will have a full picture of what's going on medically. And that will help us evaluate and value your case and give you the best legal advice. So there are several factors during this phase of the case that the insurance company will use to determine the value of your claim or the value of your case. One is the type of medical treatment. So the type of medical treatment is important, starting with the most conservative, which would be physical therapy or chiropractic. And then there's sort of a intermediate treatment, which would be pain management. And that pain management can include injections, trigger point injections, epidural steroid injections, medial branch blocks. And the upper end of that is what's called an ablation or a rhizotomy. There's a bunch of different things that sort of fall into this intermediate. And then this is followed by the most invasive kind of surgeries, which could include spine surgery or extremity surgery. So the insurance company will look at your total medical bills, but they're not going to just look at your total medical bills. They're going to look at how much you actually owe on those medical bills and what your auto insurance or health insurance has paid or may have paid on those bills. So don't worry too much about that. We'll handle it for you. But just so you know, that's a little bit of like what they're looking for when they value a case. Just know that as your case progresses, generally, the more medical treatment there is, the more seriously an insurance company will take your case. So that's not to say to go get a bunch of medical treatment if you don't need it, but if you're injured and you need treatment, you got to go get it. Otherwise, the insurance company's not going to take it into account. This treatment phase of your case will generally last until about 6 to 8 months after the date of your initial injury. So that's not our fault. The reason for this is that the American Medical Association guidelines dictate that in order for a doctor to give a solid, I mean, they can give an opinion before, but to give a solid opinion on permanency of your injuries, it's usually best that you remain under their care for a period of about 6 months. So sometimes in the doctor's opinion, it's all up to the doctor, but sometimes that period can be shorter and sometimes that period can be longer, but it's really up to the doctor's medical expertise and discretion as to when you have reached a point which in medical terms is called maximum medical improvement. At this point, it's called MMI, right? At MMI, the doctor can either place you on a maintenance plan or release you from care, or potentially make further recommendations that may move you past maximum medical improvement with the current therapies you are undergoing. So that's what MMI is. That's a kind of a buzzword that you would be looking out for. In this stage of the case, the medical treatment stage of the case, our law firm is sort of in a holding pattern to see how your case plays out medically. We don't want to settle a claim too early for not enough money, and we don't want to wait too long. We have to sort of strike when the iron's hot. But during this medical treatment phase, it allows us to fully evaluate your claim and maximize your compensation based on a review of that full 6 to 8 months of medical records and medical bills in totality. Rest assured that we are still working hard on your case, but this is the time where we rely on you to sort of give us what the case is going to be. So during this time, we're getting calls from the insurance companies to update the claim. We're saving correspondence from medical providers. We're saving letters from health insurance companies and liability insurance companies like auto insurance companies. We're getting what's called a PIP log to see what medical bills have been paid by your auto insurance. And we're keeping an eye on your total medical charges. But that's kind of behind the scenes. This part of the case is really up to you. Your case is what you make of it. And truly, your case is what your injuries really, truly are, both subjectively, what you tell the doctors, and objectively. It's one thing to tell a defense attorney, an insurance company, or ultimately a jury that you're in pain. You can get up and give testimony that you're in pain. But it is a whole other thing when you give them a stack of medical records showing consistent pain complaints and true efforts to try and get better. And if you get better, that's great, right? We'll talk about what happens if you get better. And then, if you don't get better, that's not so great, but we'll talk about what happens there. But you got to try to get better. Medical records and documentation is the absolute backbone of your case. And this is the part that we cannot do for you. It is our job to hold your hand through the process and make sure that we take off whatever stress we can and do what we can to alleviate any responsibility from you. But we cannot attend doctor's appointments for you. We cannot go get your MRIs for you. We cannot decide what medical treatment you will and won't have, right? If you need help making an appointment or somebody's not calling you back, we can certainly help with that, but you gotta go to the appointments. The case you give us after this stage is up to the extent of your injuries, how much medical treatment you receive, how much your medical bills are, and the recommendations that you've received from your treating doctors, and that would include the specialists that I've talked about. So it's really important to go see all these doctors, and that sort of helps us build a case. So following this stage, your case will next go into a phase which is called a demand prep phase. At that time, we will ready your case for settlement negotiations, and the next case update will go into more detail about what that involves. But just rest assured that we're not just going to sit on your case forever. Once the time is right, we're going to enter that case into the demand prep phase to start gearing up for settlement negotiations. So for now, just keep doing what you're doing. And if you're going to a doctor, follow their treatment recommendations and whatever physical restrictions they have placed upon you. I went over this in our first video, in our first case phase update, but I'm going to tell you again now, do not post on social media and don't engage in any activity that could jeopardize your health or your recovery. Insurance companies and their attorneys are watching you. You are in good hands with Carter Injury Law. You can contact us anytime with questions you may have about this video or any other part of your case. The bottom line is that we are here for you. We rely on the medical treatment. We rely on you for the medical treatment stage of your case, but we are here for you always. And so if you have any questions at all, reach out to me or my staff anytime.